Hello and welcome back to the Sports Brief Podcast. It is a beautiful start to the weekend, a Friday. We are joined by Tristin. What is up, dude? How's it going?
It's going well.
Also got a special guest with us, Mr. Tanner Fritz. How you doing, big guy?
I'm good, yeah. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, really good to have you on. Really excited to get this thing rolling. A lot of stuff to talk about. Playoffs are here, man. However we want to say that. I don't know. I mean, playoffs are here. Exciting time. A lot of things we're going to talk about tonight. The preview of the playoff games, the firing of NFL coaches, and what it's called, Black Monday. And that's just shocking to me because I believe Stephen A. Smith said it best. It's Black Monday, even though the vast majority of head coaches are white. I don't know. Not trying to take any shots at anybody, but a little bit of a side joke there. Also going to talk about Tanner Fritz playing for Winter Warriors, even though Ben kind of doesn't believe that he did. A lot of conversation with that. And also, what about life was like in college and favorite memories and all that. Dilly-daddly to talk about. But the first thing we're going to talk about is you guys subscribing for weekly sporting takes from the Sports Brief Podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe on and follow us on all social media platforms so you guys get all of the sporting news from the Sports Brief Podcast. So let's get right into this. A lot of things to talk about, but we're going to jump off into some of these playoff games. And to me, there's a lot of good playoff games for me, although as a Vikings fan, I'm not expecting – everybody's writing the Vikings off, and rightfully so because it's Drew Brees. He's got Alvin Kamara. I mean, he's had a receiver that's had probably one of the best wide receiver seasons ever. So I don't think that we can maybe debate the fact that the Vikings are going to lose. It's just a matter of how much. And me being a realist Vikings fan, I think that Michael Thomas is going to go off for 4 touchdowns. Anywho, let's get into this. Let's see here. Any of you can answer this. We'll start with Tanner since you're the guest here. Which out of all these wild card weekend, between the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans and the Tennessee Titans and New England Patriots, and then the NFC we got the Vikings going up against the Saints. We covered that already, and then the Seahawks going up against the Eagles, I believe. Let's see here. What games really excites you the most?
Yeah, no, actually, I think it's one that maybe you wouldn't think, but I'm looking at Buffalo and the Texans. I think that the Texans have one of the sneaky best rosters in all of the NFL, but somehow they always find a way to kind of underperform. I mean, yeah, they're 10-6, but I mean, when you have, Hopkins on the outside, Watson, for whatever reason, I feel like they should be looked at as more of a contender. And I believe I saw yesterday that J.J. Watt's going to be making his return for the season as well in this game. So, I mean, it's at least exciting. But then on the other side, you have someone, a team that no one would have guessed would be in this situation with the Bills. I think people, saw Josh Allen as a good quarterback, but I think this year he took that next step to being, almost, getting up there with the top tiers of quarterbacks. And they don't really even have when your best receiver is Cole Beasley, you kind of feel for the guy, but he's, made the most of what they have. They have a really good defense, and I think that could be a really fun game to watch. But also I'm kind of interested to watch the Seahawks play Philly. Philly's had a really weirdly bad year, but still snuck in. I think the Seahawks are one of the better teams, but, I have a hard time betting against Russell Wilson, but I think that, you could definitely see the Eagles possibly pull that one out too.
Mm-hmm. Tristin, for you, the most exciting game?
The one I'm most excited to watch is probably the Titans and Patriots game tomorrow night. Ever since Ryan Tannehill took over at quarterback for the Titans, they've just been a completely different team. They've had one of the best passing games in the league, one of the best running games in the league, and they have a top 5 defense. And New England hasn't played a wild card game in like 8 or 9 years now. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely unfamiliar territory for New England. I'm not writing New England off, obviously. I picked New England to win in a couple of my brackets, but I really think Tennessee can go in and upset New England. But then again, if they do upset New England, I don't think they'll get much farther than the second round because they'd have to play the Baltimore Ravens in the second round, and I don't think anybody's going to beat the Baltimore Ravens. But that's probably what I'm most excited to watch. I'm not too excited for the Vikings and Saints game. I'm not completely writing the Vikings off. I'd have my money on the Saints winning, but when Kirk Cousins has a good game, he has a really, really good game, like 400 yards, 4 touchdown game.
Yep.
So if he can put together one of those kinds of performances, and Dalvin Cook is back, so that's good. I'm not sure about your backup. I know Boone will be playing.
Alexander
I'm not sure.
Madison, yep.
Yeah,
I believe he's back as well, yep.
Okay, yeah, so that's good. And Thielen's healthy now. I don't know if he's 100%, but he'll be playing.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I think it's the playoffs, so every team has a good chance, but I don't think the Vikings will go in there and win. But yeah, I'm definitely the most excited to watch Tennessee upset New England.
I do think too, the cool thing about the Titans season is once they made that switch to Tannehill, I think right now as a backup he was making like $1 million on the year, and then now he's probably looking at raking in about a $25 million per year contract. So, and that's in like eight or nine games. So it's one of those cool turnarounds. He went from being a lifelong backup there probably to making $25 million a year. So that's cool.
Yep. Yeah. And I feel like it's kind of comparable to when Case Keenum kind of came out for the Vikings because, he was kind of just a journeyman in the NFL, and then all of a sudden he had that big year, went to the Broncos for the
he was a joke. He was a joke at the Broncos.
Hey, he calls it like I see it. I love it. Let's see here. Oh, man. Most excited game I'm excited to see for the playoffs. I'm going to say, out of all this, I'm going to have to go with Tanner on this one. I believe that Seattle is a big team to watch, even though I believe the Saints are the team to beat in the NFC. And this isn't me taking a bash at my own Vikings, but I looked at it today. They're going to be missing Mackenzie Alexander, who is who is an argument for the best slot corner in football. And then they're also going to be missing Mike Hughes, who is on injured reserve. I don't know what's wrong with him. But and now they're bringing in Marcus Sherrills, who is, let's face it, 5'10" with 2-inch heels. So he's not a very big corner. He's mainly a punt returner. And the Vikings find themselves in the biggest game of the year without two of their best corners. And we already know from what we've watched for the Vikings, they weren't exactly anything to write home about defensively anyways. So I'm definitely expecting now. Before that, I had like a sliver of hope, about as much hope as you can have for being a Vikings fan. But now that those two corners are out, I'm expecting at least a 30-point blowout by the Saints, just because the Vikings defensively don't have as much depth as I thought they had. But it's just the life of being a Vikings fan. And there's also rumors that Mike Zimmer might go to the Dallas Cowboys after this game. And the Wolves just issued a statement basically saying that they have all the trust and that all the plans for Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer to be in the future of the Vikings. I, as a Vikings fan, I love that, but it's also the fact that it's just I don't know how much optimism to have for the future. Anyway, the game I'm most excited about once again is the Seahawks. They brought Marshawn Lynch back again, which we covered last week, but I think Marshawn Lynch this game could have a big game. And what I mean by big game, I think his days of having, obviously 200-yard games are over. I don't think he had a lot of those anyways. But the Philadelphia Eagles are probably one of the most interesting teams in the NFL. Carson Wentz, a guy that was 2 years ago in the MVP conversation through 13 games, and then now you're almost like a little too, I don't want to say nervous to call him an MVP candidate, or even to maybe even say for sure franchise quarterback, but now he's kind of turned it around a little bit. And the Eagles find themselves with an opportunity at a chance at making a playoff run, but I really expect the Seahawks here, especially Russell Wilson plays his best football, other than one throw in the Super Bowl, wasn't his fault, in the playoffs. So the Seahawks got Marshawn Lynch back. I expect him to have a big game, and by that again, at least 70 yards rushing. He'll have a couple touchdowns. I don't expect him to have another 100, 200-yard game. I just think those days are past him. He's 33. I think it's time that we kind of temper the expectations a little bit, but he will help them out in a major way.
But I'm curious though. I'm gonna cut you off here. Out of these 4 games and so out of these 8 teams, how many of these teams could you see as an actual Super Bowl champion? If you had to, how many could you envision actually making the run? For me, I see the Saints, the Seahawks, and I think I would put the Texans as a dark horse Super Bowl contender. I'm interested, I guess, hear what you guys think.
Mm-hmm. Tristan, you can go ahead and take that, big guy.
Yeah, everybody who's playing in the wild card games this weekend, I think New Orleans is the obvious choice in the NFC. Seattle definitely could. I don't think the Eagles or Vikings will get very far, but in the AFC, obviously the Patriots, they're always there. But, besides the Patriots, I'd probably have to pick, I don't know. For me, it's kind of like a tie between the Texans and the Titans. I honestly think the Titans have what it takes to make a deep run. If they can get past Baltimore in the divisional round, then I'll probably pick Tennessee to win the Super Bowl because
they found their offense late.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've been playing really well. But if I had to pick, I'd pick Houston definitely over Tennessee right now.
Nice.
For me, obviously it's the Saints. I mean, I've said it for even last week. They're the hottest team in football right now, other than the Baltimore Ravens. They're a whole own separate animal, not bringing the Ravens into this. Saints are the hottest team in football right now. Alvin Kamara is heating up. Thomas is obviously, again, one of the best wide receivers. But I believe, I was reading this. I believe, I'm trying to remember who said it, but I read it on the Vikings website that the biggest mismatch possibly for the Minnesota Vikings is going to be Jared Cook. And even I think that's even a bigger matchup for throughout the playoffs because Jared Cook, listen, he only has 43 catches this year, but 9 of those went for touchdowns, okay? And Drew Brees absolutely balled out, even though he missed, 4 or 5 games? He almost hit 30 touchdown passes and still missed 4 or 5 games. So, I mean, obviously, the Saints are the team to beat in the NFC. I don't think anybody can argue that, especially with how many injuries that San Francisco has sustained this, when it was later in the season. The Seahawks, to be honest with you, I is it me or is the Saints just a little bit put together, better put together than the Seahawks? Because I mean, think top to bottom. You said I believe the Saints have one of the best rosters in the entire NFL, and the Seahawks. I mean, you got Pete Carroll, who's I think at this point is in the conversation for being a Hall of Fame coach, but at the same time, I still think that Saints have a better roster top to bottom. So I don't think the Seahawks will maybe make it to the the NFC Championship or whatever, but I think they've got a shot. As far as the AFC, it's the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, I don't care about the Texans. I don't care about the Patriots. I actually said that the Patriots will come out and demolish it, and I think I'm gonna. It's a tough thing because Bill Belichick always finds a way to come out and use your biggest strength against you. And I feel like, Bill Belichick is going to find a way to do the same thing here. I'm not going to go back on what I said from the beginning. I've always said that the Patriots are going to find a way to shut down Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. So I still think that's how it's going to go. For me, though, Lamar Jackson, obviously MVP candidate. You can't completely count the guy out. I mean, I know he's got a week off or whatever, but at the end of the day, I still think it's going to come down to what Bill Belichick dials up. So that's my take on it. Let's see here. And then we've also got there's a lot of different things we've also got tonight. I'm just trying to here we go. Obviously, we've got the firing of the coaches in the NFL. Pat Shurmur, Freddie Kitchens, and now most recently. The Cowboys head coach, Garrett, which shockingly, was it too shocking? I don't know. I just don't think it was that. I mean, to me, it wasn't that shocking. I mean, there's a lot of different things that Jason Garrett could have done, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's gone. Biggest surprise coach firing, Tristin, go.
Shoot, the biggest surprise was probably, I don't know, there haven't been many huge ones besides Jason Garrett. So I'll just say Jason Garrett because maybe Ron Rivera. Mm-hmm. That one was pretty surprising. He's a hell of a coach. But the Cowboys organization, that's like a family. Jason Garrett probably should have been fired a number of years ago, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, because he can't really seem to do anything with the talent he has, especially this year. There's no excuse for not making the playoffs this year with the roster he's had. But yeah, it really surprised me because I really felt like no matter what, Jerry Jones was going to stick with Jason Garrett and everybody was going to keep calling for him to get fired and he was going to keep not getting fired. But I think, besides that one, the biggest surprise was probably Ron Rivera to me. He's a really good coach and their roster was beat up all year besides Christian McCaffrey carrying the team. And they still managed to win a handful of games that they probably shouldn't have. And they almost beat the Packers and they shouldn't have won that, or the Packers probably shouldn't have won that game. I think the Panthers should have won that game. But I was really surprised they didn't stick with him into the future. But the Redskins definitely got themselves a good head coach.
They absolutely did. Mr. Fritz.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of hit it right on the head. I think letting go Rivera was – I can see why they did it, but it was also dumb. I think the Redskins scooping him up was a slam dunk hire for them, and they're a team who needs a slam dunk hire. I think the most surprising thing, though, is that Freddie Kitchens ever had a job. He was by far the worst NFL head coach I've ever seen, and not just by his calls or anything. It's just the way he looked on the sidelines. He looked like a lost dog. And Freddie, I know you're probably a big fan of the show, and if you're listening, I mean this sincerely. You sucked. You were awful. If I was a Browns fan, which I'm not even close to remotely a Browns fan, I hate you. You were terrible, and that's just my 2 cents. Made it through that without swearing. I didn't think I would. But
thank you.
He was really bad. So I mean, the Browns get to start fresh, but I don't know who wants to walk into that dumpster fire. Jason Garrett had the best job in the world for the last 9 years because he could pretty much just do whatever he wants as long as you let Jerry Jones tell him whatever to do. And finally, it just ran its course. I mean, I don't know if you saw it after their last game. He took his family on the field and was throwing the ball and was hugging everyone. I think he knew it was probably time. I'm glad he didn't have to go away getting fired. I think his contract was just out. But, I mean, what a ride that guy got. What the amount of paychecks that guy got that any other coach would have been kicked out the door. He's a smart guy for just, being Jerry's lapdog for that many years. But it'd be interesting to see where they go now. I really hope it's Lincoln Riley just so I can see my good friend Garrett get all riled up again. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
I was looking at this, and I would say that the biggest surprise to me as far as coach firings was Pat Shurmur. Now, I think the Giants, obviously, we can all agree, weren't a team to really watch this year, but he was slowly starting to develop talent. Daniel Jones was coming along at quarterback. Saquon Barkley, need I say more? But, there's so many other things for the Giants that I don't think people took into consideration, especially when you consider how far they were coming. The Giants now, I believe when Daniel Jones took over, I think he won a game, and then it was done. They went like an 8-game losing streak. But if you look and you watch their games with a keen eye, you could just see that their defense was gassed. Like, they just couldn't do a lot defensively. Saquon Barkley barely got over 1,000 yards because he just, the dude was injured for a couple games. The fact that he came back from a high ankle sprain with 3 games and 2 or 3 games was absolutely incredible to me because Adrian Peterson didn't do it in 5 games. So this kid doing it in 3 was absolutely insane. Daniel Jones, 24 touchdown passes against 12 picks. I think you got some talent there. You also, Evan Ingram, I don't know, this dude is injured more times than, anybody. And he's a very promising tight end. So if you look top to bottom, they're getting talent. They were getting talent on this football team, offensively anyways. And Pat Shurmur's a former offensive coordinator, a great offensive coordinator, might I add, for the Vikings 2017 NFC playoff run. Title game playoff run until, obviously, they got to the title game. But if you look at from top to bottom, they were developing. They had talent. They were getting there. Now, they weren't winning games. I think that's a separate thing when you're an NFL coach trying to coach a team. Obviously, you want to coach your team to be disciplined. And I think a big thing within that is tackling well. The Vikings, for example, one of the best tackling teams in the entire NFL. And I think that was one thing that Mike Zimmer wanted to hone in on. And there's a lot of these other coaches that really hone in that because you miss a tackle and I get 7 extra yards. You miss a plethora of tackles that can just be a big catastrophe for your team because there's so many things that a missed tackle can lead to. But things like that defensively, I think, is what doomed Shurmur. And Shurmur, I got a buddy that I converse with from the Unfiltered Sports Network that we talked about the Giants, and he said that these last couple of years he just didn't see Shurmur dialing up those patented running back screens or anything like that. Well, it doesn't matter. Look, the Giants average 21 points a game, and I'm not saying that the Giants defense needs to be able to allow at least 2 touchdowns, but it would have helped. Their defense was not anything to write home about, even though, they were improved, but at the same time, they were not by any means a good defensive unit. So I think at least, and this might just be me, if I'm wrong, ask my girlfriend. I'm okay with being wrong, but I am not okay with being told I'm wrong and not having a single reason. I believe that you need, as an NFL coach, I think you need 3 seasons, unless you're absolutely awful. I'll even go with you on this, Tanner. Freddie Kitchens was awful. He should have been out after a season.
What a moron. I suck.
So
I know you're watching, Freddie. Come to Sioux Falls. Meet me outside.
Oh my God! All I'm saying is that you need more than 1 season. You need more than. I think you need 3 seasons to be able to make that jump. I think I'm sorry, your comment still got me, but I still think that you need 3 seasons to be able to actually judge a coach on what he does.
He shouldn't have had 1 season. Okay. The fact that Cleveland hired him was blasphemy. To see what Greg Williams did with the Browns last year, or not? I don't know.
I think he was.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe intern, something like that.
For them not to hire him, I was super surprised. And then they hire Freddie Kitchens, somebody who's never had a coaching job, besides being a coordinator. But it
looks
was
like
ridiculous.
a Michelin man.
Yeah, he couldn't. every time there was drama on the sidelines, he would ignore it rather than talk and try to discipline the players.
I'll be honest. I didn't realize how much I hated Freddie Kitchens till I sat down to do this about 20 minutes ago. It came from a bad place.
So this is like a literally a birthing of a new hatred for a man that you've never met before. Like what?
I'll never see him again. I'll never see him on a sideline again for sure. Guy sucked.
I can't believe everything that happened with I go back to the podcast episodes. I said that the Cleveland Browns were Super Bowl contenders. How do you think I feel? Okay, especially with the fact that I put all of my eggs into one basket, and for them to not even really be in a liable playoff scenario, I feel like absolutely I just feel emasculated, right? Like I don't know why I did. I think I was just joining the hype train because of seeing all the weapons they had.
Well, they built their team like you were playing, Madden franchise, and they're like, oh, I get the two they didn't really take into account all of that meshing super well, and what happens is Baker Mayfield takes a massive step back. They can't pass protect. He doesn't step up in the pocket. They have really horrible play calling when Nick Chubb is one of the top probably 5 backs in the league. And there'd be times where he would have hardly any carries in the half. He just did a terrible job, and he deserves to be laughed at in front of the whole world like we're doing right now. I know, I'm going to continue to laugh at Freddie Kitchens for years to come.
Mm-hmm. I think we need to get off the Freddie Kitchens subject.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can.
Okay, so let's see here. Out of all the other head coach firings, I really wasn't surprised. I mean, obviously, last time I'll mention him, Freddie Kitchens wasn't a big surprise. Pat Shurmur, again, not a big surprise. That was a big surprise for me, but maybe not for a lot of other people. What about? I think it's time we talk about this. I'm a guy. I went to Custer High School. I actually went to Rapid City Central High School for most of my freshman year and all of my sophomore year, and then I went back to Custer High School. Winning a state title. I never won a state title. I was one of those teams. I was on the team that always was a step away. We had enough talent. I just feel like mentally we weren't there. And I'm kind of looking at this, Tristin and Tanner. I know you guys are probably going to poke fun at me because I never won a state title. I never got a ring. Yeah, I get it. I've heard it all. But I mean, I'm going to actually start with Tanner on this because, I'm lucky to be enough at the Winter Advocate. I'm covering the Winter Warriors. I was at the state title game this year. I'm really excited for the girls to, and possibly the boys to even maybe go to the state tournament this year in basketball. Your brother's playing. Dude dunked a week or two ago. I couldn't believe it. I think I looked around the entire gym and everybody's mouths were wide open because the boy got hops. So
yeah, I used to be able to dunk too. There's just no video of it.
Really?
No.
Let's see here. So being a state championship, on a state championship team in Winter, South Dakota, is it me, Tanner, or football's different in winter? Is it not?
Yeah, and I think that comes from one, having continuity at head coach for so long, and with that comes success. And I think you could probably talk to 99% of people that have played under Coach Aker, and they would say the same thing: is that they're really, really happy that they got to play for him. Not only just because you became a better football player, I just think it truly, made you a better person in terms of, being held accountable in high school at by anyone other than your parents, and maybe most of them weren't even being held accountable by their parents. And that's one thing that he did really well, is he held people accountable. I to this day, I don't have dreams about playing. When I fall asleep, I don't dream about playing football anymore. I have dreams about missing practice and nightmares. I'll wake up sweating, running up the hill and seeing him, standing over there just pissed. I still have nightmares about that to this day. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, he had respect from everyone. And what that does is it breeds down to all the younger kids. And I mean, I know when we were 9 and 10, that's all we do is we go play backyard football and beat the crap out of each other and think about, and that's what we do during the games too. We'd go up to the top of the hill and you'd beat the crap out of each other. But at the end of the day, winning a state championship at the time, that's all we wanted to do. And, as I've gotten older now, a couple of years removed from it, it used to be more of a cool thing. And now I just appreciate the fact that I got to be a part of that team, to be honest, because it takes a little while for you to realize that you don't get to do cool stuff like that with your childhood friends anymore. Right. I mean, I see most of them, a handful of them a couple times a year, maybe at most. And so it's cool to have memories like that. I mean, we probably played in two of the, you have to ask Coach Aker, probably two of the top 5 games in at least modern winter football history with the semifinal game. We came back from being down like 26-13 in the fourth quarter, and then the state championship, we had like 4 or 5 goal line stands and ended the game with a goal line stand. So it's just cool things like that. And when I was a jerk at 19 going into college, it's all I wanted to talk about. But now it's just like something that is it's cool to think back on. But that's why I also then having a little brother go through it, and seeing him come up just short last year, knowing he has another year at least. But I would have no problem telling Coach Aker how much it meant to I'm sure a lot of us that he held us accountable and made us better people.
Mm-hmm. This whole message, this whole purpose of this whole segment of the show is to really encapsulate a winning attitude, like a winning culture, a winning, just like a winning mentality. Tristin, Pierre just won the state championship for the 3rd year in a row. I actually got to catch a little bit of their state championship game against Brookings, and my dad went to Brookings, so it was kind of a little bit of a way for me to kind of rub it into his face. But looking at this, when you were in high school, I know this. It's literally like we're like when you were in high school. I know that's not what I meant to do this, but I'm just asking. When you were playing and you guys won a state title, what did that do for you? What was that experience like?
It was really cool. I can't give enough credit to the coaches. We had Jason Poppinga was our head coach at the time, and Shannon Poppinga was our kind of assistant head coach. He was our defensive coordinator. I think right now, Jason and Shannon, they both coach at Sioux Falls O'Gorman now. Mm-hmm. They only coached in Pierre for 1 year or 2 years. Their first year, we won the state title. It was Pierre's first ever state title. And they just did a really good job just shaping our minds and like championship mindsets, like you guys said, and just hard work. And teaching us that hard work pays off, and teaching us that no matter how hard you work, no matter how good you are, they're gonna there's other people pushing for your spot. Like in our on our football team, the starters, besides the quarterback and the offensive line, there wasn't a starting spot that was really solidified on the offense. Like if you get beat in practice or outperformed in practice 1 week, the other guy's the starter the next week. It didn't stay the same, so it was pretty cool in that manner. But more than anything, them just developing a hardworking mindset for us. And I like what Tanner said. I think about practice all the time. I don't really think about the games much anymore because they're whatever. But it was kind of weird for us in Pierre because they actually created the AAA class the year that we won the state title, and we stayed at AA. So before the season even started, it was kind of like common sense around Pierre that we were probably going to win the state title if we could get through Brookings because they were still in AA, mm-hmm. and that we should have been moved up to AAA. So it was kind of like a chip on everybody's shoulder to prove everybody wrong. I don't even know why Pierre's not in AAA yet. They should be. They should have been after.
I do a whole segment on that.
Yeah, they should have been in AAA the year we won the state title. We played AA teams the whole year besides Rapid City. We pooped on Rapid City by like 30 points. And then we played Sioux Falls O'Gorman for their homecoming, and everybody thought we were going to lose by like 30, but we ended up beating them like 16-14. And it was like the winds were like 50 miles an hour, and we were an air raid offense. So we had to beat them at their own game and run it down their throat. And so it was really cool. But yeah, just instilling the mindset of hard work was really the only thing I take from it anymore. Just creating hardworking individuals and just developing a mindset that you need to work harder. You're never in a spot where you work so hard to get there that you're going to be there forever. Like you always need to have just awareness that your job could always be taken from you. Mm-hmm. So you always need to push yourself to be the best you can be. So
let me ask this question, and you guys will maybe find out, and my girlfriend knows, Alyssa, I love you. If you're listening, please get to bed. You need to sleep. The one thing I've noticed is I've turned into a really philosophical person-ish. I don't know if that's the word. I look at everything philosophically. There we go, man. I read dictionaries, and I look at things and I try to find the deeper meaning in things. I try to find what it really, and like being a state champ. Do you? Let me ask you this, guys. Did you guys carry yourself any different? Did your mentality change? Did you, the thought process, like walking down the halls, obviously your guys' heads were pretty swelled, but I mean, that comes with winning a state title. That's just part of the game. Like, how did your guys' mentality and maybe just thoughts about yourself change? Like, how did you change?
Yeah. So it definitely made me probably a little bit more of a jerk for at least like the start of college and whatnot. But I mean, you pretty quickly you find out that no one really cares that much. I mean, it really shouldn't be about that, right? And I learned that quick enough that it's not about, being able to say that you won a championship. It's more, I think it should be more internally, and like now at 24, it's just cool. Like this, I don't go down, go to the bars and tell people like, hey, I don't know if you guys know this, but 2012. But I mean, I probably should, but yeah, no, that's really, I mean, right away, yeah. But I would recommend, don't open with meeting people on your freshman year college floor, being like, hey, I don't know, you guys see that game?
Yeah, I see this ring, like just flashing it. But that's all I ever wanted. And John Clute, I love you to death, big guy. I played 2 years of college football with him. All he did is he would make fun of me. He'd have those 2 rings and clink them at. Like he always made fun of me for that. I was like, girl, John, I know. Like I know you won 2 state titles. Good for you, big guy. And Tristin, what about you? Like, did your mentality change? Did your attitude change? Like, what about you might have changed by winning a state title?
Yeah, it was kind of the same as what he said. I mean, the first couple months or the remainder of my high school life after you won the state championship, a lot of cockiness and arrogance came from it. We even wore our rings around school, like just flash them, and we wore them for our prom pictures and everything. So it was a big deal. When you're in high school, it was a big deal, and then as soon as you get to college, nobody gives a crap. So as soon as I got to college, at least for me, and I would talk about it a lot my freshman year to people, but after that, it's just kind of, nobody cares that you won a state championship. I mean, half the people that played football at this college probably won a state championship, some other school. But yeah, it's just it's really humbling looking back at it, and it kind of, I don't really know. It teaches you a good lesson in terms of like how to. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. I'm at a loss for words, I guess. I can't really. I'm bad with words.
You're still going back into it, aren't you? The memories are flowing back for Tristin over here. And I guess
I ended up meeting his name's Brett Page. He was the quarterback for Tri-Valley on the team that we played against in the Dome, and I ended up pretty much living with him all the way up throughout college. And he's still, one of my best friends. He lives right up the road. So like stuff like that's even cooler, right? That you can kind of put and tie stuff back together. We don't, we don't talk about that, but we're, just, good way to meet people too.
Yeah. I'm assuming a little bit of rubbing in came in.
No.
Maybe no, really.
No, Brett's a scary dude. He's small but mighty.
And for me, and I might be wrong on this again. I don't mind being wrong, but for me, I'm looking at this, and is football the only game that really, like, you have to be, like, the memories are all you have. Like that's literally, like, because you can always lace up and play a pickup game of basketball. You can always go and join amateur baseball, but you can't ever get, like, it's in some cases, even college. And when I suited up for the last time for PC, I think the realization that, like, this was the last time, the song, I think it's by Brad Paisley, "Last Time for Everything." Like that song came to mind, but I made sure I was focused for the game and everything. But so when I listen to that song, and I even when I just think about the memories, I mean, is football? I feel like football is the only game that really you can ever say, like, wow, man, this is actually the last time that this is going to happen. Like, even in the NFL, like, you can kind of gauge when you're, the end of your career is coming. But, like, in high school and college football, if you're lucky enough to play college football, like, that's when you start to realize that, man, this is the last time. What about you guys? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, no, it's actually, it's probably a little bit harder for me to answer because I never had that moment of, this is the last time. Because, I mean, when your last game, you walk off and you won it, right? I didn't, everyone's celebrating, you get it a little bit on the bus, but you're still so jacked up. And I mean, honestly, so like for me, that kind of made it super easy. I never really had to have those thoughts because, you go out on top and that's all you think about. But, now you start thinking about it a little bit too. It's like, well, I can play slow pitch softball. We can play intramural, 3-on-3 basketball or whatever. I don't really think I can go out there and even play flag football anymore. My body would break down. I would literally pull every muscle I have. So yeah, no, it is. it's interesting, and especially when you add in the the contact part of it. Like, there's ain't no way you're getting me back in full pads. Nowhere, not happening. So yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it.
What about you, Tristin?
Yeah, it was difficult for me. I mean, after we won the state championship, there was a lot of celebrating on the field, and everybody was super jacked up. But as soon as all that was done, we all kind of went back into the locker room to get changed and showered and get on the bus. And there was a lot of the guys, like the seniors, a lot of my friends that were seniors, we were all part of the FCA at school, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So they were all kind of just like sitting by their locker saying a prayer. So I was just like, yeah, this is kind of sad. So I went back to my locker and I kind of just like, before I even took my helmet off, I'm still wearing my helmet. I was sitting there. I'm just like, I'm going to take my helmet off, and I probably won't ever put on a helmet ever again. Like, this sucks. It's cool. We won the state title and everything, but there's nothing I ever loved more than football and playing football. So it was pretty sad. But, yeah, I played flag football at the University of Mary, and you can play pickup basketball and anything, but not playing actual tackle football with pads on. I felt like I was just missing something. So that kind of like led me to walking on the UMary football team. I didn't even care. I didn't really, in my mind, have a vision of ever playing in a game for UMary, ever. Like, I just want to put pads on and I want to practice with you guys because I love playing football so much. Like, I don't even care if I get to stand on the sideline. I'll go watch your games and I'll practice. I'll be a tackle dummy. Like, I don't care. But, yeah, definitely it sucks still to this day. I wish I could still be playing football, but, yeah, it's hard. But I cherish the memories that I have from it and take the good lessons with me.
Like I said, and I've stated multiple times, it's even in my Twitter bio, I'm lucky enough to be a Winter Advocate staff reporter, and I cover a lot of great sports and everything. And the one thing that I've noticed, I've went back, I love my girlfriend, but I'm a huge nerd, so I'm not cool in any way. So I go back and watch the state title games, and I go back and watch those, and instead of trying to find ways of being cool and by, like, I don't know, dressing better or whatever it is, I go back and I watch state championship games. I watched the Cologne state championship game from last year, and then I watched I actually just watched the Winter Girls state championship game from last year as well. And there's something that it's about, and I wrote it down in the outline as insurmountable pressure, and I mean I'll still think that resilience it makes a part of a champion. Like, it literally shapes you. Like, for me, my team in high school, I just felt like every time we would we would score. There was only one time we ever really answered the bell when the pressure was on. But every time things got tough, we kind of crumbled. Like, that was just our genetic makeup. That was who we are, who we were as a team. And the teams I've covered in the Winter and Cologne, I've even seen it in Peter too. It didn't matter the pressure. Like, it didn't matter. I.e., look at this St. Thomas More game this last year. St. Thomas More threw like a 50-yard bomb over one of the Winter Warrior DBs. I don't remember who it was. And I'm thinking, okay, as a reporter, like, I know, that's a big play, but as a football player, I'm like, man, that's a little bit demoralizing. And then to see them come out and just drive, 80 yards down the field, and from that moment on, just set the tone. Like, it's plays like that, and it's drives like that, and it's momentum shifting, like a chain of events like that really shape a football game. It all comes down to the same thing about answering pressure and being able to stand up in the face of all that. So I mean, what about you guys? Like, I never apparently, well, I guess we never really handled it that well. But like, for you guys, like, how did you guys handle that pressure, like, internally?
I don't even think it's so much like a internal person. I mean, especially if we're talking about football. I mean, that's kind of the benefit of playing with guys that you're best friends with or you've grown up with, and you played these backyard games. You played, all these different sports with each other throughout the time. I mean, like I said, we were down 13 points against Flandreau. We had just fumbled again inside their 10. We feel like the second time, and there really wasn't a lot of panic for a team down 13 with like 10 minutes left. And I could be misremembering the score in time, whatever, but something along those lines. All it took was a defensive shift where we started blitzing on the outside towards wherever their motion was going, and all of a sudden the game flipped. When you put together a drive, and you just trust each other, I think, and you trust everyone that they're going to do their job. No one's trying to do too much. I mean, that's where you get in trouble in football too, is if you have a guy who is trying to do too much because he doesn't trust that the guy next to him is going to be able to do his job. So I think that's important. I guess outside of football, I don't really have a good story to tell, but we were never that great in basketball. So, but yeah, I think it just comes from the guys around you, and if you're lucky enough to be in a situation where those guys are all, at least talented enough to do their job, then you're in a pretty good spot.
Mm-hmm. Tristin, resilience. What do you got, big guy?
Can you repeat the question?
Well, okay. I know I said it like I really said a long way about it. Is in state championship teams, and there's a team will score a touchdown, like the opposing team will score a touchdown, and you have to, as a team that is in that position, you have to find a way to be able to rise out of the ashes or be able to try to find a way to answer. I mean, can you talk about what being able to stand up in the face of pressure, like what or what that feeling was when you guys were able to answer the bell?
Yeah, so I would say we probably faced a really difficult challenge in the middle of the season, more so than in the state championship game. I think we were 6-0 or 7-0, and we traveled to Yankton and we played Yankton. And up until the Yankton game, we were really good on offense. We'd beat teams by 30 or 40 points, but we were really lazy on defense. So when we went to Yankton, we ended up having a pretty sloppy game on offense, and our defense couldn't help us. And, there was so much pressure on us. We got to stay undefeated. We got to win this game. And we ended up losing. And it was just the worst thing in the world. Everybody was crying and pissed off or whatever. But after that game, it was the way we handled it and the way we came back from it. We ended up having the best defense in the state after that because we realized we're not as good as we think we are. Like, we need to step it up. We need to play better. But a lot of it came down to trust. Like, as long as you trust the guys around you, a lot of them were really good friends of mine. So I didn't really have any trust issues with anybody. So as long as you trust the guys around you, trust your coaches, it really made it pretty easy the rest of the season for us after that loss. And there wasn't a whole lot of pressure at all. I mean, the first quarter of the state championship game, it was a lot of nerves and nobody's really acting like their friends. You're trying to act like you're a professional, but I think that's when you try too hard at your job. So after the first quarter, kind of let loose and ended up winning like 37-7. But it is what it is. Not to brag, but
you're still. It's like 4 years later, man. Get over it. Tanner won money, but he's not over here.
Yeah, I'm over it. But yeah, it's just how you respond from it. Is the biggest thing for me, for sure.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's on the flip side of that, you could have somebody, that just, lives in that moment. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, that lives in that moment forever. I mean, I got a buddy, it's kind of funny enough, when I was coming to PC, there was another guy named Colton Hall, and we were roommates. And I'm thinking, all right, what's going to go on here? And Colton was a little out there. Colton was very interesting. I remember, we would be playing somebody. And instead of me focused, I was a redshirt at the time, so I'm on the sidelines focused, like, man, these guys are good or blah. But I'm in the moment. I'm playing college football, and Cole would be like messing around with me, like just trying to say jokes. And I'm like, dude, why don't you focus? Because Colton was a whole different story. But it was funny because freshman and sophomore year when we played together, every year around the same time, like state championship, he would whip out his state championship tape. That state championship game and show us. You guys want to watch the state championship game? And we'd be like, no, that was 2 years ago, dude. Like, no, we don't want to watch that. But it was funny because he played it with his good friend Tristin, who's actually a really good friend. We had him on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and then we played it for another good buddy of mine, and all four of us were roommates: me, Colton Hall, Tristin, and then Logan Wazoo, who played in the state title game as well against Tristin and Colton. So, I mean, for me. Maybe it's not a bad thing to be able to look back at it and be really proud of that, because at the end of the day, I think so, I don't remember what teacher told me growing up, but they told us that the students that you grow up with, that you're actually in class with, you actually spend like most of your life together, like your beginning, like your growing up years, and then maybe that's why they have reunions or whatnot. So be able to go back and remember that, I guess maybe isn't the worst thing. I don't know. What do I know? I'm a 23-year-old kid from the Black Hills. That's just I don't know. Maybe that's another way of just remembering the good times. Because you got to remember those. You got to be able to look at those and just be able to take a lesson from them. I don't know. Life in college, definitely something. I think for all three of us, probably a time to remember. What about favorite college memories? Go, Tristin, go.
Probably easily freshman year, first semester. You kind of. I was roommates with T-Bart, Travis, and I actually went to college. So over the whole summer before I went in my freshman year of college, I worked for my dad's construction company, saving up money so I would have spending money to get me through the school year so I wouldn't have to get a part-time job. And so I ended up going into my freshman year with about like $4,500. So you would think, you know, it should get me through the year. Like, I should have plenty of spending money. I didn't have to buy books or anything. But I ended up looking for jobs at the end of October.
No way.
September, because me and Travis, we'd go out every night. We'd go to like any movie that was playing at the theater, we'd see it twice. Like we would, spent a lot of money, went out to eat. It was just really fun because you didn't really have a care in the world. I mean, you're finally on your own. You can make your own decisions. You don't have to be home at a certain time. But it was kind of the shift between freshman and sophomore year, or first semester of freshman year, second semester, because it screwed around so much. I got put on academic probation my first semester. And so being able to bounce back and handle myself more responsibly my second semester taught me a lot about prioritizing things. But definitely the most fun memories was definitely my first semester of college, for sure.
Mr. Fritz.
Yeah, no, I think I don't know how many stories that I can tell, but some of the ones that really come to mind are my junior and senior year. We got this big old house in Vermilion. I can't even really describe how gross it was. Just with words, you'd have to be able to smell it, but it was fun. We had 6 people living in it, and so the one thing is and then one of my other buddies, his name was Brady Soden, and he just loved falling down and falling into stuff, and he broke the window falling down the stairs. He fell into, like, when you walk in our door, there's this big drywall slab. He fell backwards into it and left almost like a body impression on it. And then before we left, we just put a USD flag over it and never heard about it. We got most of our security deposit back, so I don't even know if they ever saw it. But I think a lot of my best memories, are from either, being in that house or being with those guys. I mean, we did a lot of stupid stuff, but that's kind of why you go to college, right?
Yeah. I just find it funny because, growing up, I really wasn't one to, like, maybe you guys partied. I didn't party. I was there for business. I was there on a scholarship. I was trying to.
I was there to party.
Yeah, I wasn't. I went there. My goal was to become the best football player that I could. And just be the best, version of myself, because I think I'll never forget this. I'd committed and everything, signed my letter of intent, and it was the second semester. I'm taking honors physics. I had no business being in that class, and no business whatsoever. And the reason I passed that class was because the football coach was the teacher. Like, that's the only reason. And I remember, sitting there, and I'm screwing around. My buddies are doing all the problems for me. Like, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm just like, I'm going to college football in 3 months. I don't need any of it. I'm gone. And teacher comes up to me. No, it actually wasn't the football coach. It was Mr. Elsman. He wasn't even the football coach. So the fact that I got an A in this class was absolutely blasphemous because I didn't do anything. And so I remember he came up to me and he told me, he goes, the rate at which you're going through this class, you're going to be home before Christmas from college. And for me, I'm extremely I carry my emotions on my sleeve, and maybe I got personal foul penalties in high school because I was always like I flew by the seat of my emotions. And when he said that to me, I never forgot that. This is 5 years later, and I still haven't forgotten that. Like, when he said that to me, I was like, all right. So that was my mindset going into college. Like, I wasn't going to screw around. I was there to prove people wrong. I was there to have fun, and to a certain extent, that's a little bit of a regret of mine. Like, I wish I would have gone out more with friends. Don't get me wrong. I have some stories, but maybe for another time. But that's all I gotta say. Is about that whole experience. But I felt like college, and my uncle said this a lot to me. Is these are like the times of your life. Like, these are the times like you don't really have a worry in the world. Go to class, eat some breakfast, go to lifting, go to football practice. Like, that was it. I didn't have to worry about work. Now I got this. I got a truck payment. I got all this different stuff. And I think that's really something that I did and I didn't do well enough is I didn't, take advantage of the moment. Like, I didn't seize, what I had. And, Tristin is lucky enough to still be in college in a way. Like, you still get to deal with that. But at the same time, though, Tanner, wouldn't you agree that maybe it's not the worst thing? Like, maybe that's I like being grown up. I really do. Like, I like having my own apartment. I like being able to do whatever I want. Like, not because, and for lack of a better term, I'm a grown man. Like, it's just saying that I'm happy to be a grown up. But like, looking at it now, it's just funny. I've got rent. I've got everything with the truck. I have bills to pay and everything. But now I still like being a grown up. Like, I still like where I'm at. And And my dad even said when I was graduating high school, he said that these are going to be the best. You just are missing out. The high school years are the best times of your life. And I remember looking at him and thinking, what? Like, I really hope that high school is not the best time of my life. Like, no offense, but and when I went to college and was able to kind of go through that for 4 years, I loved it. That was a really good time. But I think the best times of our lives hopefully are in front of us. Something maybe to look forward to. I don't know. Maybe sporting wise, maybe the Vikings could win a state championship. Could maybe win a Super Bowl. I don't know. It's something that we'll have to win with those, Colton. Yeah, I know, man. It's like it's painful. It's I can't even. I've actually started reading a lot more books, trying to find the words to so that I could express my pain to everybody. But I don't think it would be. I don't think so that it would be good enough. We talked about favorite memories. We talked about winning a state championship. Let's talk about not so favorite memories from college. Tristin, not so favorite memories.
Being threatened to get expelled from school was not. Probably my least fond of memory, and then dropping out of school, that kind of sucked too. So I got put on academic probation after my first semester, my freshman year, because I screwed around too much, had too much fun, and didn't worry about class. I think I ended up that semester I got like a 1.3 GPA. So they sent me a letter. They're like, "Yo, you got to get better than a 1.5 this second semester, or else you're out of the university." I gotta get my stuff started.
I wasn't the first one to do it.
Yeah. But that was really probably one of my worst memories, but I'm really glad it happened because my work ethic changed a lot since then. And but my second one was probably I switched my majors like 4 times at University of Mary, and then when I transferred here to the University of South Dakota, and I couldn't find anything I enjoyed, so I just dropped out straight up. And I worked for 2 years full time as an apprentice plumber for a plumbing company in Sioux City. And then I was just like, yo, this sucks. I mean, like, the money's good and I enjoy being an adult, but I want to go back to school, get a degree in sports, and I want to actually do something I like and make less money because it's worth it.
What's your degree in? What degree are you going for?
Right now I'm in sport management and coaching and sports marketing and media. Okay. But I don't really have an idea in the world what exactly I want to do yet, but I just know sports is the only thing I'm really passionate about. So as long as I can coach, if I can be an athletic director, whatever, I'm all for it. But yeah, those are definitely my worst memories, and it's getting better now though. So,
but it shaped you. Like it gave you drive. Being in that situation of being a plumber, it shaped you. It helped you get to where you're at now. Tanner, what about you? Not so favorite memory. Go.
Yeah, so I really wish I would have went first, I guess, because I think this is going to kind of contradict some of the stuff you said, I guess. But I'll take it in this way. My biggest regret of college is not going for a super specialized major, something that right out of school I could convert to a decent paying job. But which it sounds like you just said, you're willing to maybe I start off at a lower paying job to do something you love, where my vision was I was going to get a sports management degree, which I got, and go work in minor league baseball until eventually I could find my way to living in Denver and working for the Rockies. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, as I started getting closer and closer to graduating, I started realizing that it was a lot harder for at least me to do. And I like I told you before we started this, I interviewed for like a low Class A baseball team marketing job in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And after that, I was like, I think it's maybe time for at least me to change paths. So that was probably my biggest regret. I think there's a lot of, really, that's what actually my number one thing. I even tell like my brother, go to school for something at least specialized and something that you can get a job with right after school. I mean, as long as you get your degree, you can always do your, go find a sales job or whatever, but at least you have that option right out, whether it's finance or whether it's accounting. I mean, pretty much all my friends graduate with accounting degrees and they, that's their path, right? And if they want to change it, they can change it later on. So that's probably my biggest regret. I started off as a general business major, and I just wish I would have at least picked a path that I could easily follow right out instead of somehow, in a roundabout way ending up. Yeah, I mean, I finally ended up in a good spot, and I really like what I do, but it's one of those deals where maybe I could have found something a little faster.
Mm-hmm. For me, it was different. Not so favorite memory. I was, I was a junior. I was having by far my best spring ball. And I'm not even bragging. Like I was on fire. Like everything was clicking, coaching wise, weight room wise, just everything was clicking. And I broke my leg, and I went back for my senior year, and I tried to rush coming back because I wanted to play. Like I knew the team needed me, and I really wanted to play. And for me, that was rough because I wasn't mentally ready, and I wasn't physically ready because I hadn't ran in 3 months. I hadn't like hard lift because I couldn't, broken leg and all for 3 months. So I mean, I was just kind of going into that situation like I wasn't ready. So being forced into that was tough for me. But towards the end of that, I would say, when I was ready to get out of college, and for me, I had an option of going to play for Shattern State for one more year because I redshirted, or I could get a job. And for me, it was pretty easy. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this job. I've always wanted to be a sports writer. Like that was always my dream. Be a reporter for something like that. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. And I came here to Winter. I've absolutely loved it. The people here have been great. Strong community. It's just like where I'm from. And for me, I got a call from the coach. When I first started the job, or about a month in, he goes, hey, we're still a spot for you. If you want to come, you can come. And I said, you know what? I love where I'm at. I've decided that I'm gonna stick with the job, and I really like it here. So, and that was kind of the story of me staying here. And I think a lot of it came to fruition when I was able to kind of look at everything and realize I knew I made the right choice because to me I didn't want to stay in it there for another year, even though it's really cheap and whatnot, and I would not necessarily been in more debt. It's just the fact that I was able to actually go out there and be in a strong community, be close to family, and I think that's what really went into my decision. So, I just think that, I'm glad how everything worked out. I think it's important. I think it's important for a lot of us to be able to look at ourselves and be able to realize, hey, it could be so much worse. And I think that to be happy for what you have, I'm extremely happy for what I have. I've got a beautiful girlfriend. I've got a great job. My family's only an hour and a half away. I think it's important to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, you know what? You killed it. Even be maybe a little too confident in yourself. Be like, hey, good looking, you killed it. I don't do that. I'm not that confident, but I definitely I like to think that it's really good to be able to love yourself. I don't mean to sound too weird, but I mean you got to be able to love yourself a little bit. Yeah, I mean we talked about it. Life after college, favorite memories. I mean what it's like being a grown up. I mean I think we can touch on that. Actually, we already just talked about what it's like being grown up. Let's think about last thing here, and we'll get going. Things we've learned the easy way and the hard way. And I'll go first because I've been yelling at you guys all night to go first. So I'll go first right now. Things I've learned the easy way or the hard way. Right off the back of my head, I think that when I was lucky enough when we would be in fall camp, we would have these. The coaches would bring us in, and we'd do. They'd have Wells Fargo come in, and they'd teach us about the importance of saving and establishing credit and doing all that jazz. Throughout college, I had a credit card, and I never spent an absurd amount of money on it. I was very vigilant on it and everything. And I learned from other people's mistakes. I like to tell my parents, they're for lack of a better term, I'm obviously the golden child. I'm just kidding. But, I was able to learn from a lot of my older siblings' mistakes and look at it and be realized, okay, I got to do a lot of things differently if I want to make it. So, by doing that, I think I learned it in an easy way because I knew right away that I was going to have to be able to do things differently in order to be able to succeed differently. I think not Bob Ross. I don't know why I was thinking of Bob Ross, but looking at it, I'm trying to remember of Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey says, I believe one of his mottos is live right now so the way you can live right live like nobody else now so the way you can live like nobody else in the future. And that was something that really honed in on me. So that was something I like, okay, it's not just college football. This isn't just class. This isn't just getting a degree. This isn't just, this is me making the best life for myself. Because of all the sacrifices that my dad made. He worked at the South Dakota Highway Patrol for 30 years. And that was something that I realized, hey, that's pretty cool. Like I realized I had to make the most of my opportunity. That was something I learned both the good and the hard way. The easy way and the hard way. Mr. Fritz, a lesson you learned in college the easy way or the hard way?
Yeah, I guess. And actually, I'll take this maybe out of college and start with the hard way. And this is one thing I wanted to touch on too is, when I first when I first moved out of college, so I was actually working in the Black Hills in their athletic department as like my last thing before I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
So once I started the job hunt, I really wanted to get out of South Dakota for, a time being and just go where I didn't know anybody and try to, start something. And so that landed me. I went and worked at Huddle in Lincoln, Nebraska for a year. And I know what you're saying. I made it sound like I was, going to spread my wings and go to like California, but no, I landed in about two and a half hours away or whatever. But, and I think what I learned the hard way is if you don't know anybody and you want to enjoy your time in a new city and this, I tell everybody this now, is live downtown, live close to downtown, live somewhere where when people want to hang out after work, you don't have a 15-minute drive back because it's, $150 cheaper or whatever in rent. And I've made that mistake twice now. I probably should have done that in Sioux Falls here, but it's worked out a lot better. But I actually think that's one of the main reasons why I ended up leaving Lincoln is just, it's harder to, once you get back to your apartment and whatnot, to actually go back downtown. So I know it might be a little bit of like an obscure thing to say, but I tell a lot of people that because I pretty strongly believe that would help kind of assimilating to a new city. And to be honest with you, I can't really think of something I've learned the easy way. Especially since graduating college, I don't think anything's really come easy, and there's a lot of hard lessons you learn going out on your own for the first time. And I think you learn a lot, especially in a new job, and you learn what you like in a new job. You learn what you like in a manager. You learn what you want to do and what kind of life you want to live. And I mean, obviously I'm still figuring that out. I'm only 24. I mean, my grandma still acts like I'm 35 and crying that I'm not married yet, but I still feel like I got a lot to figure out. And so yeah, I don't really know if I have anything for the easy way.
Mm-hmm. I just want to say something here before I give it to Tristin. I've never learned anything the easy way. That is never like I think I misspoke when I said that. I just learned from what other people did. I learned from that. I've had some I've learned some things the hard way, unfortunately, and that's just how it goes. Like that's a part of life. That's what you experience. Tristin, lessons you've learned the easy way and the hard way.
Shoot, I would say the easiest lesson I learned, kind of the most obvious. You have to try hard if you want to get to where you want to be. Because if you don't try hard, luckily for me. When I got that letter in the mail saying that, I sucked at school and I'd get expelled if I didn't get better, that was kind of like them telling me in the nicest manner, like, you got to do better. So I guess that was kind of learning the easy way for me, that I had to do better because, I mean, the GPA that I got that semester still affects me to this day a little bit. But as far as stuff I've learned the hard way, it's probably mostly financial stuff because from going in college, you don't have to pay when you're in college. You don't really have to pay any of your federal student loans or stuff of that nature, rent, because you can live in the dorms. But when I dropped out of college, so I wasn't really smart with my money when I was in college. So as soon as I dropped out of college and started working, you got to start paying all your student loans. You got to start paying rent. You got to start paying utilities, Wi-Fi, you name it, all the crap, health insurance. As soon as you get off your mommy and daddy's health insurance. But yeah, it sucks. It's rough.
I'll move to Canada before I hop off that. Once I hit 26, I'm gone.
Yeah, it's not fun. I mean, we got to pay like $450 a month right now for our health insurance, but it's definitely learned that the hard way. The first probably 6 months I was out of college, we were in the hole a lot in our bank account, and so we had to start learning how to budget. We actually did some Dave Ramsey program stuff, and it really helped with budgeting. He's a smart guy. So, yeah, those are probably the two things I learned the easy and the hard way.
Is that the bald guy?
Yeah, he's bald.
Yeah,
but
he's the bald guy.
I like to say follically challenged. I don't know if bald is necessarily the correct, the correct term. I don't know. I mean, he's got a lot more money than I do. I don't want to insult the dude.
Do you think you'd look good if you were bald?
I think I would look smashing if I was bald. Like, I think I
would look busted. My head would go everywhere. I swear to God.
Oh man, man! I think that's all we got for tonight, man. A lot of fun, a lot of good things to talk about.
That was quick.
Yeah, it was quick. Oh, over an hour here. But no, again, great having you on, Tanner, man. We really appreciate you joining, guy.
Yeah, and I guess my last question to you is, who's a better guest, me or G?
I can't go there.
As why? A show host, it's obvious. Actually, let the view count decide. Let the view count, the comments, the love. Let that decide who you want back first.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll actually put that down as the question for this week. The better host. I'm the host. The better guest to have on the show. Give him some love. Give us some likes. Give us some comments. Let us know.
Yeah.
Also, let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. If G wins this, you have to.
I'll move to Canada. Yeah, I'll move to Canada. I will. I'll move to Canada if G wins this in a popularity vote. I'm gone.
By the way, that's Garrett Gronlund. So if Garrett did really well. So that's all I'm gonna say. But also Tristin, man, it's always a pleasure. You know what it is.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Anywho, I'm gonna get us out of here. Once again, we obviously really appreciate all the listenership and everything. Everybody supporting us. Make sure you guys follow us on all social media platforms. And once again, everybody else have a great night.